Okay, folks, welcome back. Today we're going to learn about assemblies. So right here I have a part. It is a bolt. This bottom head has a diameter of 0.35 inches and is extruded a small amount. And this top part has been extruded 1 inch, and the sketch has a diameter of 0.25 inches, so pretty standard bolt size. It's a 1/4 20 bolt. I didn't bother including the threading because that's not really necessary for what we're doing here. And what I want to do today is I want to create an assembly that combines this bolt with other parts. So if you look at the bottom when you create one of these pieces that we've created so far, you'll get a tab. It'll say Part Studio 1 or something like it. And in CAD, we want to work a lot of the times with multiple parts at the same time and combine them in an assembly as opposed to making your whole project in one part. This makes it a lot easier to make modifications. Those of you who have worked with Inventor or SolidWorks or some other 3D modeling software have probably worked a lot with assemblies already. For those who haven't, assemblies allow us to bring parts together all in one document and see how they interact. And it makes modifications and iterations a lot easier when you're working with a robot or a mechanism, whatever it might be, whatever you might be designing. Okay, so right now I have one part. I'm going to add another part. So I'm going to click on right here where it says Insert New Element. And you might have a tab down here that says Assembly. You can just ignore that for now. I'll go to Create Part Studio, and it'll create a file that's Part Studio 2. You can rename these parts, but for now I'll leave them alone. I'll create a sketch. And what I'm going to try to do here is I'm going to try to create a rack for this bolt to fit into, so I can have several instances of that bolt. So I'm going to draw a rectangle. I'll dimension it to be 2 inches by 4 inches. And then what I'll do is I'll draw a circle, and I'll dimension it to be 1/4 of an inch. And this will be kind of like a slot for this 1/4 inch bolt to fit in. And then I will dimension it to be, go back into dimension. I want it to be 1/2 inch from the bottom and 1/2 inch from the side. Okay. And next what I'm going to do is I want to make a bunch of instances of this circle all throughout this rectangle. I'm going to use linear pattern, which is a little bit different from circular pattern. It just makes a linear pattern of things. So I'm going to select linear pattern. I'm going to click on the circle. I'm going to set the distance apart. I'm going to leave it alone at 1 inch actually, because that's kind of nice for this. Number of instances horizontally, I'm going to make 4. So it just creates that. And I actually want to make it go up as well. Instead of using linear pattern again and having to use it for each individual circle that I create, I'm going to go up here where it says 1x. That means it's only 1 vertically. I'm going to change that number to 2. And you'll see that I have all these instances now of the circle I've created an array. Now we can make this really big. I can make this 5. I'll have a bunch vertically, and I can make this 10. Now I have 50 circles. But I just want 8. So I'm going to go back to 4 and 2. And I'm going to left click when I'm done. So I now have these circles. Now if I ever want to change these things, I can always click on the thing I want to change, and it'll just auto update. It's really friendly in that way. Now I'll extrude what I've made. Hit Shift E on my keyboard to extrude, and it'll auto extrude it. I want it to be 0.75 inches tall because I want the bolts to peek out of it, just so we can see them. So I'll make that 0.75 inches, and I will say that that's done. Now, if I ever want to modify those linear patterns, I still can. I can go back in here. I can change this distance to be 0.5, and if I click this check mark, it'll update it in the part, which is really nice. Let me change it back. Hit this check mark. Okay. Reduce rendering performance detected. That's not good. Okay, now that I have this part, I can go ahead and create my assembly. If you already have an assembly tab in there, you can just click on that. But I seem to have deleted mine, so let me create an assembly. And this will not work the same as parts. You'll notice the ribbon, the menu up top, looks very different. What we want to do is we want to take our parts and insert them in here. So I'll take my bolt and I'll insert that, and I'll take my rack and insert that as well. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make this, or it might be in another software, it's called constrain or join. There are different terms depending on the software. Here it's called mate. I generally refer to it as mate. And all of the different mates that we have are up here. We have fasten mate, revolute mate, slider mate. There's all these different types of mates that you can add, but you'll notice the hotkey for all of them is the same. It's M. So if you just hit M on your keyboard and you select the things that you want to constrain or mate to each other, it'll auto figure out what kind of mate works best in the situation. Sometimes it doesn't do it properly and you have to go in and you have to select the one up here that you want, but for what we're doing, for the most part, this will be just fine. So I'm going to hit M on my keyboard, and then once I hit M, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the surfaces that I want touching and see what it does. So I'll select here, and I'll select here. So I want to wait till kind of this pie chart looking thing pops up, because now what it's done is it's done two things. It's made the hole and the bolt concentric, but it's also locked the bolt in place vertically, so nothing can move. But the bolt is flipped, so I'm going to hit this, which is going to flip the bolt over. I'm going to hit the check mark, and it locked everything in, which is really nice. Not all CAD softwares are able to do this, and a lot of CAD softwares, let's try to make another mate. A lot of CAD softwares will ask you to make a constraint in every direction. So like, let's go back a little bit. So I would, let's say I was working another CAD software. I might, select this cylinder here and my cylinder here. And for my mate type, it wouldn't create a fastened mate like the one I used. It would create a cylindrical mate, which would allow the bolt to slide up and down. It wouldn't lock everything in, which sometimes you want, but I think it's a little bit easier without it. And then you would do something like this, just like this surface here and this surface here, and you wouldn't have fastened, you would have planar. They're on the same plane. Hit check. Oh, we seem to have a problem. Nope. This one, it just keeps trying to create a new mate. It's a little annoying. And then this is locked in, but it's flipped over. So we would go back in here and we would flip. So we would flip this one, edit this one, and we would flip, check. And it should lock everything in. Why is it giving us an issue? I think we need to flip both of them. Yeah, both need to be flipped. Okay, so that's just kind of like how other CAD softwares would work, but for onShape, fasten is a great use for this kind of thing. So I'm going to just go back and do that again. So I'm going to hover over this cylinder till that pie chart looking thing pops up, and do the same thing over here, and I'll flip it and I'll hit the check mark. Now that I have this bolt in here, what I want to do is I want to recreate it in these other holes, but I don't want to go through that process I just went through every time inserting a bolt in. So I could go insert and insert just another bolt and do the same process of mating it in and flipping it. I could do that, but then I need to do that 8 times. There's an easier way. make an infomercial. There's gotta be a better way. Okay, so if you recall when we made this box, we've only made the circle once, and we patterned it. We're gonna want to do the same type of thing for the bolt. So if you go into search tool and you type in pattern, there's an assembly linear pattern and assembly circular pattern, which allows you to replicate a part in a linear or circular pattern. So I'm going to click on linear pattern and select the part that I want to pattern. Then it's going to ask you which direction you want to go in. So that means you want to select a line that you have somewhere on your object that indicates which direction you're going to go. I'm going to, for direction, so I'm going to click on direction right here, and I'm going to select this line here because that's the direction I'm going to go in. You can always flip it by clicking this, but it's going in the right direction by default, so I'll just leave it alone. The distance is already 1 inch, so that's nice. I'll leave that alone. And I'll set the number of instances to 4. Now at this point, we want to go in the other direction as well, but there's a second direction thing here, but it's a little hidden, so I'm just going to click on this and bring it up. Okay, second direction. Bring this up a little bit more so I can see it. Second direction, I want to go in this direction, and I only want 2 instances 1 inch apart, and that's it. All done. I hit the check mark, and I've made my piece. Now, the really nice thing about assemblies as we go through is, let's say I made this rack and I go, oh, these bolts are too long. They should have been 0.75 inches, or this box is too small. It should have been 1 inch big. I can go back into the part. So I'll go back into the bolt, and I can go into this extrusion, and I can edit it to be shorter, 0.75 inches, and it'll update it here, but it'll also update it in the assembly, which is just like a really, really awesome thing that assemblies enable you to do. If you picture trying to create this as a part and make that kind of edit, it would take you forever to do it. So that's going to be it for today. Your homework's going to be to create 2 parts and an assembly with those 2 parts, where one of the parts is replicated a couple of times using one of the pattern tools. Okay, that's it for today. Please post your questions on Google Classroom if you have any. I will see you guys for the next lesson next time.